Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Today we're going to have a great subject to talk about, one that I am in a bit of a difference with my good old brother here, the engineer, and my favorite engineer, Jacob Santien.
Well,
how are you doing, my dear friend?
I'm actually doing okay.
Great. How was your day?
I can't really complain. I went to a press conference and shot some video and went to the gym. I feel awesome.
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. But anyhow, folks, it's been an interesting news week since the last time I've been here, hasn't it? A lot of stuff has happened.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Great economy, supposedly. Not really, but good enough for the numbers. You know, I spoke a whole lot about that on my other show a couple of days ago. So I won't go there because what I really want to talk about is the flak the president has been taking over the National Prayer Breakfast. So, you know, what can I say? I have to say that I agreed wholeheartedly with what he said. However, I think he was rather kind. A lot of people don't believe that. A lot of people are giving him a lot of HE double hockey stick or sticks about it. But anyhow, I first want to thank Paula Almond. Paula Almond, a returning KPFT member from Humble, Texas, for her most generous contribution in renewing her membership. Thank you. It's important that the community support the station. Specifically, I love when you donate during this hour, because during this hour, it's Politics Done Right. And it shows us that, yes, you really cherish the type of programming that we're doing here. So thank you very, very much, Paula Almond. Folks, if you go to the tip jar at kpft.org right now, kpft.org, you can ensure that this station stays on air. Community radio stations must have community support in order to stay on air to provide unbiased information, the kind of information that I promise you. Yes, you know, I give you a liberal perspective, but I guarantee you one thing, it's the truthful perspective. It's not going to be the perspective that others want to program you to believe. I trust that you're a thinking person. Please remember to listen to another great program that we have here a couple of times before me, The Monitor, with Mark Bebawi on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I think you are also the engineer for Mark's show. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Yeah, that's why the show is so good. You know, when you have a great engineer, everybody fight over the engineer. So, you know, we have a great engineer here.
I haven't had anybody fight over me yet, but
you know, you won't know if they're fighting over you. All you know is that, you know, they like you.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. Anyhow, of course, Thursdays at 10 p.m. CST, Central Standard, there is Mike Honig with Think Wing Radio. And Mike likes to say that he's the most conservative liberal at the station. After working with my good friend Jacob Santien here, I have a feeling that Jacob may be a bit more on the conservative side than he would want to admit. But that's okay. Jacob?
Well, I say that I'm not a conservative of any kind, honestly.
Okay, good. Good.
Very, very staunchly left wing, but with maybe some more strong, small L libertarian leanings than a lot of people would particularly care for.
Okay, my dear friend. These are great shows to keep to keep you in the know. Again, those two shows are The Monitor with Mark Bibawi and Mike Honig, Think Wing. 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Mondays for Mark Bibawi's The Monitor, and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursdays for Think Wing Radio, Mike Honig. Tonight we will discuss the National Prayer Breakfast. President Obama created a stir because he dared to tell the truth. I want to talk about that truth. It is rather deep, and unless we understand it, we will repeat the same mistake. So you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
I named this blog post, and sometimes I wonder when I'm writing some of these things, sometimes at 2 or 3 in the mornings, what I was thinking. But sometimes it is actually even, sometimes you actually think better at that time of the morning anyway. I named it "The Obama Speech Put Fear into Right-Wing Evangelical Leaders." But it was really about the speech that he gave at the National Prayer Breakfast. And it starts as follows. President Obama gave a hell of a speech at the 2015 National Prayer Breakfast. Actually, it was not a speech. It was a sermon. Those fortunate to see the speech witnessed President Obama as a preacher-in-chief. Watch the video above is what I have, and it's at the blog post for this thing. It's got a huge, it actually went viral. Watch the video above it and listen to the speech in its entirety. Take a listen. Go to the blog post at politicsdoneright.com and watch it. It was not long after the speech that the right-wing pundits started hyperventilating. Tucker Carlson claimed the president was telling Christians they had no right to judge ISIS, as they also have blood on their hands. Likely GOP primary presidential candidate Ben Carson said he felt betrayed by the president. Michelle Malkin tweeted, "ISIS chops off heads, incinerate hostages, kills gays, enslaves girls." Obama blamed the crusade. Many are concentrating on an inconvenient truth that the president laid out in a few words. And this is what he said. "Unless we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place," Obama said, "remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ. In our own country, slavery and Jim Crow all too often was justified in the name of Christ." Those evangelical leaders, Republican pundits, and GOP presidential candidates have been fostering hate as they attempted to force the president to equate Islam with the atrocities perpetrated in its name. The president understands that it is the people perpetrating the heinous acts and not the religion that must be condemned. The president was rather kind by not articulating the fact that similar heinous behavior in our own country is less than just a few centuries and decades past. Isolated heinous acts are less than a few months in our past. For those who think that the murderous filming and burning of another human being is beneath anything American would do, Daily Kos's Chauncey De Vega reminds us otherwise. Writer-blogger Elizabeth Parker also reminds us in her most prescient speech, most prescient blog post, that is. She writes, "In 1916, less than 100 years ago in Waco, Texas, a black man named Jesse Washington was lynched and burned alive in a gruesome ritualistic murder by white racists. His crime? Local whites accused Washington of raping and murdering a white woman with no evidence of witness other than the confession he signed after a prolonged, quote-unquote, interrogation. Nor was this an isolated case, according to History Matters. Whites brutally lynched over 5,000 African Americans between 1852 and 1964. The history President Obama, Elizabeth Parker, and Chauncey De Vega articulated is well known, or should be well known, to the hyperventilating evangelical leaders and Republican pundits. Their fear isn't that the president is continuously telling the inconvenient truth. The fear is that the people these evangelical leaders have been filling with hate towards the president and to liberals by extension will see the truth, not only about the past, but about the sincerity of his call for true reconciliation on all counts. If they cannot divide and conquer, they are left with nothing but an immoral and evil ideology of hate that accomplishes nothing good for any Americans, irrespective of social status, religion, race, creed, or gender. That goes the blog, but before I want to get to another blog real quickly, because somebody that, and by the way, both of these blogs really tore loose on the internet in the last few days, and I think it got there because it touched a nerve. Mostly on the good side, I'm thankful for, but David Brooks must be given kudos for getting it right. He went against the right-wing grain as well as against rather elitist comments from journalists Andrea Mitchell and John Meacham. John Meacham claimed that within Christianity, the Crusades was an exception to the rule. This illustrates how one can change a narrative when the context is kept limited in scope for a self-serving purpose. As noted in my previous post, the president was rather kind by not articulating the fact that similar heinous behavior in our country is less than just a few centuries and decades past. Isolated heinous acts or less than a few months in our past. Andrea Mitchell's comment was simply ludicrous. She does not believe the prayer breakfast is a place to speak truth. You don't use the word crusade in any context right now. It's too fraught, Andrea Mitchell said. And the week after a pilot is burned alive and a video shown, you don't lean over backward to be philosophical about the sins of the fathers. You have to deal with the issues that are in front of you, or don't deal with it at all. Really? In other words, ignore the sins that indirectly impact or have impacted all that is occurring in the world. John Meacham does seem to believe that atrocities in the name of Christ ended with the Crusades. He forgot that the savagery Christianity inflicted on Native Americans from the tip of South America, the Caribbean, Central America, to North America. He forgot that African slaves throughout the Americas were murdered, lynched, burned, and beheaded, many of these acts justified by religion. Those are truths, documented. You can find them. He forgot that while some did these bad deeds in the name of Christ, most Christians remained quiet. Yet, many Americans now want to condemn Islam because many of its members, many Muslims, seem to be just as quiet as Christians still are for many still occurring injustices in America and abroad. When Chuck Todd asked if politicians can have the debate, David Brooks, my favorite conservative, David Brooks, my now favorite conservative till he says something silly. This is what he said. I am pro-Obama. I'm totally pro-Obama on this. I think he said the right thing. It was a gospel of humility. What sorts of people need a little gospel of humility? People in Washington, pundits, religious believers. I happen to be all three of those things. And so we are told to walk humbly in the path, that the Lord's paths are mysterious. And so he was saying we are prone to zealotry. As John said, we are fallen. So, to underline that, that's useful in Washington today. That's useful always. When Chuck Todd asked if it was necessary for a president to leave office before he could speak that candidly, David Brooks was on point again. No, I think he was right. He gave the race speech. It was a beautiful speech. He has given a whole series of great speeches. Trayvon Martin, I think this was utterly fine. This is exactly the moment you want to say this. We are most in moral danger to ourselves. And again, this is an important statement that he made here. We are most in moral danger to ourselves when we are caught up in righteous fervor against an evil foe, which is what we have. So while we exercise hard power, we have to take morally hazardous action. I better repeat that because this is an important statement. It goes as follows. So while we exercise hard power, we have to take morally hazardous action. We are prone to get caught up in our own self-righteousness. This is exactly the moment you want this. The president's speech was about humility. It was about all human beings fallible. All human beings are fallible. As such, we should all get off the high horses and work together to bring us all together for a better nation, for a better world, for a better nation, for a better world. That's what it's all about. A better nation, a better world. Nobody is trying to justify the evil that is ISIS. ISIL, the president calls it ISIS. No one justifies that. But by the same token, as the president said, as the president is right about, we should look on the inside and we should look at where we have been fallible. Not to justify what these folks are doing, but to protect those that share the same fate, that are scared to death to speak out. Just like Christians have been scared to death to speak out on much bad that is happening here. Most people are good people. I don't care what religion, what race, whatever you are. Most people are darn good people. But I tell you the truth, most people are darn scared. Aaron, Tyler, come on in, my dear friend. Talk to me.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Are you remotely aware of anything that takes place in the world, or do you just babble on what you hear on the news?
Wow, I'm glad that you put it that way, my dear friend. I'm glad that you put it that way. Actually,
hey, I am not your friend. We are not on the same team.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
You are a regurgitation of big government. I can just hear it out of your throat.
No problem. That's fine. I like. You know what I like to do? What's your?
How in the world?
Yes.
You get on the radio.
Yes.
And kiss the president's butt like that.
Wow.
Stand up and defend Islam.
Oh, really? That's what I'm doing?
Yes. And
okay.
You compared to the Crusades. What do you have a history book at home? Do you know what the Crusades were about?
Absolutely.
What?
I mean, the Crusade was another power movement.
What
Listen,
are the Crusades about?
Let me tell you, sir. I mean, I don't have to get into that point with you
Capturing
right
the
now.
Holy Land?
No, yeah, because you don't know.
No,
you're standing up for Islam
no.
and the leftist propaganda.
Okay.
The Crusades were about taking back Jerusalem from the invading Muslims.
Right.
The same way you guys are fucking invading Europe.
You can't use those words on the air, sir. I'm sorry we had to cut you. You can't use those words on the air. But I feel, look, what we do on this program is we have intelligent discourse. This is not Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, or any of those types of programs. So folks calling in here to just scream and repeat right-wing talking points or left-wing talking points or any type of talking points, that's not what we do here. This is a program that believes people have differences and they can speak their differences and they can put their point out. But the intent is never for one to get rude or uncivil with each other. I would never be uncivil with any of my callers, no matter where they're calling from or what they're talking about. But on this show, we do not tolerate incivility at all. No uncivil behavior is tolerated on this program. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, we don't tolerate uncivil behavior on this program, but you can say whatever you want on this show. But anyway, folks, this is KPFT 90.1 FM. You can give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Yes, it's the same guy. Go ahead and let him through. How you doing? And again, whether you want to be it or not, I still consider you my friend, sir. Come on and make your point.
I apologize for the foul language.
That's all right, sir. That's all right. Let me tell you something, okay? The only way we are going to make progress in this country is if somebody like you, who completely disagree with me, can sit down and have a cup of coffee and we really see why we're disagreeing. I'm a left-wing liberal, brother. A left-wing liberal.
Well, then you should move to Europe.
No, let me finish. I'm a left-wing liberal, and you are probably a right-wing person, and that's fine. I still think we can sit down and talk about stuff. You know what you're going to find? You're going to find that there are quite a few things this lefty and this righty can actually believe in, and then there are certain things we're simply going to have to agree to disagree.
Heck, there are things that I don't agree with.
Both sides of us, left-wing and right-wing, to not fly in a circle. I think it takes a little bit of socialism, a little bit of capitalism to have a good country.
Yes,
I
sir.
agree with that.
Okay, so what I'm saying is you don't have to scream at me and I don't have to scream at you, because there's nothing in your life that's going to mess with me and vice versa. I mean, we can sit down and talk and have a cup of coffee. So make your point and tell me what you think I'm wrong about.
When it comes to Islam and comparing, when the president got on TV and brought up the Crusades, like the Crusades are the Christians back in Islam. The Crusades were defending the Jews in Israel against the invading Islam, the same way they're doing right now. And I know that for some odd reason, the left, and you call yourself a leftist, you guys just get this green path to Islam. Islam is the opposite.
I don't want to.
Represent.
Let me tell you.
There is no homosexual. There is no equal women's rights. There is a barbaric, uncivilized institutional government.
Aaron, and that's what I'm trying to run. Aaron, that is what I'm trying to get you to move from, if at all possible. Let me tell you what I mean by that, okay? This is important. First of all, is ISIS and all these guys criminal, savages, wrong, all that good stuff? You and I are in agreement with that. Let me tell you what my concern is. And this is what I try to bring up. But there are a lot of times that we're so colored by the immediate reaction that we get that we forget a whole lot of things. And I hope you weren't just seething when you were listening to my blog, and that I hope you were listening to my blog in the spirit that I'm hoping even right-wingers were listening to my blog in. And let me tell you what I was trying to do with that blog. I was trying to tell in that blog that we are all fallible. All human beings are fallible. All human beings of all faiths have been or whatever, have displayed.
That's correct.
Okay.
There is. But in today's time, if you had to bet, if you had to pull up a ratio and make an educated guess of what religion is killing the most people in this planet, which one would you pick?
Right. Well, I don't want. You know why I don't want to answer that question? Because
you know the truth of Islam.
Can I tell you why I don't want?
That. You don't want to offend your viewers.
No, not at all. I'm not going to offend any viewers here. You know what I've noticed? In fact, one of the reasons I did this program, Aaron, is that a lot of my liberal friends, believe it or not, take the position that you've just taken. A lot of my liberal friends take. I mean, Islam right now in America is one of the. To be a Muslim in this country right now is a difficult thing, no matter what type
Islam has no place in Western or civilized society.
And
that's the one asterisk we should have in America.
And
Buddhists, come on over.
And
Hindu, come on over. Christian, come on over. Baptist, come on over. Atheist, come on over.
Aaron,
bro.
you know what you
You're
need?
a liberal,
Aaron,
come on over.
Aaron.
You're a Republican, come on over.
Aaron, hold on.
One.
Okay, hold on, Aaron. Aaron, this is not going to be resolved in the next 5 or 10 minutes with you.
All you have to do is read their book. Have you read the Quran?
Have you read the Old Testament?
Yes.
And do you believe in all those things that the Old Testament say you should do?
Yes.
You do? Stone a woman, an adulterer to death?
I believe that Yahweh told the Jews that at that particular time, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you, my phones are starting to light up right now, Aaron. But I tell you what, I want you to keep listening to my show. Because
absolutely. You're great, man. I love your show. I apologize for being so curt earlier, but you're such a good...
Hey.
You're good, so you got my blood boiling a little bit. I love this kind of dialogue, and I agree with you. It takes both of us to have a nice neutral country where everyone can have their opinion.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
So let's keep talking, and not only that, take the conversation to my Facebook page, Politics Done Right, okay? And then we can continue this. But I don't want to always be talking to the choir. I want to talk to folk out there.
What's the fun in that?
Exactly.
I mean, talking to the choir.
I want to talk, and that's why I like Aaron. Aaron, I disagree with Aaron, and not only some of the things Aaron said actually kind of made me cringe, but I can talk to Aaron. Let me have Bob. Come on in, Bob. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to touch on something Aaron was saying about the religion in the world that's being the most killing the most people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you really dive into a little politics and get away from Fox News and a whole lot of the mainstream media that goes in America, you're going to realize that we're funding a lot of those people that are doing all the killing over there.
Well, let me tell you something, Bob, and this is a discussion I was having with Jacob a little bit earlier. Because what I looked at him and I said is, what is real, where do you want to draw the line as far as evil killing, right? And I gave the little example that in 1989, Panama had a dictator called Manuel Antonio Noriega. And Manuel Antonio Noriega, after the CIA had no reason to like him anymore for several reasons, he didn't want to invade one of the Central American countries for the Americans and a few other reasons, they decided that he was of no use to them anymore and they were going to take him out. And in order to take him out, what Mr. Bush, President Bush at that time, did is he sent in his Air Force, he sent in his Marines, and they came in there. And by the way, the Cuartel Nacional, that is where you have where the forces are. It's like the headquarters in David, one of the major cities, Colón, another major city, and Panama. They came in and they wiped out the area. The area was surrounded by a whole lot of buildings. They said in America, I think it was about 1,000 people dead. Then the United Nations claim it was 4,000. It turns out those of us who live in that area knew that over 10,000 Panamanians were killed.
Yeah.
Now, and these were just dropping bombs. What I say is we fight a lot of antiseptic wars. We send drones in to blow people up, but we don't see those pictures. We don't see that. And when you don't...
That's because America controls all of the media coming into the country. If you ever get some news feeds from outside of this country, I was overseas for 5.5 years.
Exactly.
I've seen the big picture.
Exactly.
These people, Americans, I love my country. Don't get me wrong.
We all love our country.
I love it for the idea it's supposed to be, not what it's become.
Right.
And if Americans just left the bubble a little bit and kind of got out there and watched a little, watched some news from another perspective, and actually with an open mind, and that's the big thing. You got to have an open mind in the world today. Exactly. You can't take everything at first value of what they're giving you.
Bob, and you're absolutely correct. And what we have to do, because it's a shame that you have to preface what you just said with "I love America," because we all. I don't think there's any American that doesn't love America. Okay, I really find that very hard to believe. But
I mean, what's funny is because that, and just like you just said it. The fact that we're patriots and we love our country is used against us on a daily basis.
Exactly.
If we say something against our country, all of a sudden we're being, we don't love America, we don't support our troops, we don't do this, we don't do that. Listen, I worked hand in hand with those guys for 5 years.
Right.
All right. So I know half of them are thinking the same thing I'm thinking because I've talked to them all.
Right.
All right. But again, it's used against us whether you know, if you don't say the right thing that everybody wants to hear, all of a sudden you're a bad person.
Exactly.
You don't love America.
Absolutely. Well, the thing about it is, I don't care what folks say. Look, I am originally from Panama, Central America. I had the choice of where to go, and I chose America. That speaks for itself. And one of the things that I do as an activist is to ensure that as a political activist, my goal is to make America what America says it is. You know, right now America is controlled by a plutocracy that forces the government. Whatever bad things that America does, it's not we, the people, doing it.
Exactly.
It's a plutocracy that forces a select few in the government to effect those types of policies.
And you know what, man? In all my travels around the world, everybody knows that.
Right.
Everybody realizes
they love Americans around the world.
People.
Right. They love Americans around the world.
It's the people paying and having taken over the government, basically by corporations, the big military industrial complex, whatever you want to call it. They're buying the politicians. They're funding. You can name a bunch of different people that are feeding both sides of the aisle come election time. So no matter who wins, guess who's in their back pocket?
Exactly. Well, let me tell you, folks, I work with another organization called CoffeePartyUSA.com, and that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring liberals, conservatives, left-wing, right-wing, all these types of people together for one specific reason. They have us fighting against each other so that we don't see the big picture. And my goal as an activist is to say, yes, I'm a lefty and you may be a righty. We don't believe in if you take what we believe, 20% on each side, we're diametrically opposed. But guess what? Most of the things that make you live, most of the things that make you want to have a society, we all believe in those things. So
let me just say one thing.
Yes.
You just mentioned a really good point there. You said they got us fighting against each other on both sides. But let me tell you something else. If you consider yourself a lib and someone else is a conservative, that's the same thing.
Right.
You got to consider yourself a person. Put that in front of any nationality. Put that in front of any nation at all.
Bob,
and you say, hey, we're all humans.
Bob, brother, you're right. The only thing I was trying to say is ideologically speaking. So, but you're right about that. So anyhow, let me. The phone lines are kind of heating up here. So look, thank you for your call. I hope you keep listening and you keep calling, because these are the kinds of things we want to talk about. As far as getting folks together and actually, doing something worthwhile. So thank you for calling, Bob.
Can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely, sir.
Please, all the listeners out there, you guys read up. Don't just listen to what you see on the television. Read different articles. Research your stuff.
And read stuff that isn't written here. Read stuff written all over.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Bob. Positive affirmations, brother. Okay, Terry, come on in, my brother.
Hey, brother, listen, I missed the first part of the show, so if you can bring me up to speed on what tonight's subject.
Well, the subject tonight is first of all the prayer breakfast that the president is getting attacked about, and my contention is that the president said the right thing. My contention is that the president was actually too nice about our past, and after speaking to you for several months that we've been speaking over this air, I am pretty sure that is sort of where you're at as well. But anyway, let me hear what you think about the president and the national prayer breakfast.
I'm really not familiar with it. I've been swamped with some other issues.
Oh, okay.
And he said something that angered conservatives, which could have been something as simple as good morning, as far as I'm concerned.
They would be against breathing if he came out in favor of it.
Yes.
Yeah. That will cause global warming, but they won't admit that if Obama does it, we'll absolutely do it.
Well,
listen, in terms of people being upset, in terms of people being willing to hear the truth, America has devolved into a country that is simply unwilling to hear the truth. No one wants to talk about the blowback that we have engendered in various nation states. And my personal cause celeb right now is that we say that we hate terrorism. We hate terrorism. And then we say no more genocide, no more genocide. Well, there's terrorism going on in Palestine, and there's genocide going on in Palestine. And if I get an opportunity, what I'd like to say is I'd like to start something that says no more genocide, and I'd like to have that Star of David in the middle, and then I say not even by you.
Actually, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and you brought up Palestine, and I want to make a little point about that because that is important, and it shows you how the narrative works, right? I don't know if you remember the last mashup, more than mashup, let's call it the last war that we had between Israel and Palestine, how it was how it was narrated on TV. In fact, it was interesting because at that time I had Rula Jabril, who is a Palestinian reporter on my show. We had her here for, I think we had about 20-25 minutes of Rula Jabril. And she was talking about, the massacre that was occurring by the Israelis against the Palestinians. And folks, for all my Jewish listeners and Palestinian listeners, this has nothing to do with some of the particular ideological fights, and that is besides the point of this discussion that I'm having right now. What was of real?
Well, brother, if you just give me a second, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure, go ahead.
But I'm sick of the pandering to the Jewish community in America. You can be Jewish, but you're not Israeli.
Right.
If you have such a burning desire to defend Israel, go live there.
Right.
I don't want to hear them continually talk about solidarity with the state of Israel. You're an American. Either be an American or be an Israeli. You can't be both.
I understand that. What I was trying to get across, though, is to show how our media works. It wasn't about, a pander or anything like that. It's about how the media works. And let me give the example of what I was actually trying to say. When we watch that war, every day the Palestinian counts of dead was going up by 100, a couple hundred. At the end, I think it was over 2,000 Palestinians dead, under 100 Israeli dead. And still the narrative made it seem as if the major aggressor within this war were the Palestinians. And you had the numbers. You had you could go into Palestine, meaning the Gaza. Was it Gaza or the West Bank? I don't remember where it was, whether Gaza or the West Bank.
You're talking about Cast Lead or
the last mashup between the Israelis and the
Gaza.
Gaza. Okay, and if you took a look at not only the carnage but the rubble in Gaza, and then you look all over Israel in the different towns close by or whatever. There was no damage. I mean, life went on, but there was utter destruction in Gaza. And still, the narrative that you saw out there was these Palestinians attacking. These Palestinians, yeah, they were sending rockets. Those are true things. Those are things that shouldn't be done, all that good stuff. But who was really the aggressor again?
Well,
what?
As far as I'm concerned, it's the state of Israel. But, we are on this anti-terrorism kit. We will not support terrorism anywhere in the world. We are foursquare against it. Well, the nation-state of Israel was born from terror. Malcolm Begin
was a terrorist against the British, yes.
Was a terrorist against the British.
Yes.
And they killed hundreds of British officers. Yet we align ourselves with them and declare that they are our closest ally in the Middle East. And I've been asking this question now for 30 years. Why? What have they done that warrants such close ties? Why do we support them at the exclusion of everybody else in the region? And then why do we enable them to be the bully who dictates terms to everybody else in the region?
Including dictate terms to the American Congress, right?
What other head of a nation state has spoken to a joint session of Congress?
I don't know.
I can guarantee you there's not been one.
Right.
And if anybody else has suggested it, it would have been treason. Yet they're willing to let Netanyahu speak, and nobody's got a real objection to it.
That is amazing. But anyhow, Terry, let me keep you hot. Bring the other caller in for me, Jacob. Gary, talk to me. Wow, what is that? Gary? Okay. Something happened to Gary's line. And there was another person on the line that disappeared. Did he hang up by mistake on that one? Or?
Yeah, that one's on me.
Okay, I think he's calling back right now. But anyway, Terry, yeah, that is, I have no answers for that. The reality is, I always tell people, well, that particular one is above my pay grade. There must be something that I don't know. I don't quite know what that is. Okay, bring Josh in. Are we having telephone problems? Okay, Josh, come on in.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, this is the very first time I'm listening into your call, but to the show rather. So I must say it's a good show.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm going to be a little offline on the topic that you're talking about, but just a few things here. I'm an immigrant myself, and one thing I've seen about what's dividing us as a nation, especially the policymakers, we are a reactionary country. Our politicians, our policymakers, basically have no revolving agenda. And I'll give a prime example: the recent Ebola outbreak that we had. Okay, I bet you 2 years ago, no politician knew anything about Ebola, had no agenda about Ebola, okay? But when this thing came out, all revolving ideas about what Ebola is and what Ebola is not, okay, every politician had an opinion. They went against the prevailing opinion of the public health policymakers, and it all became politics. And it's always been like that, okay? It's reactionary policies. We never plan on the things that we need to do. And until we get to that point, until we get to that place where we can anticipate things and move things as they should, okay? I mean, Hillary Clinton already, the thing about Benghazi, okay, Benghazi was never an issue, but because she's going to run for office, okay, let's look about something that's going to bring Hillary Clinton down, okay? And there's nothing wrong about strategizing about her, but, as politicians, as public policymakers, if we don't get to a place where we can be objective about ideas, about making policies that are going to benefit the people, the taxpayers, I think it's going to be a long run for us.
I want to interrupt you for 1 second for one specific reason, Josh, and it goes as follows. When you mentioned about Ebola, about the politicians not knowing about, several politicians not knowing about Ebola, I have to agree with you there. When it comes to how the reaction or why it is, let me make some statements here. The people in the know knew about Ebola. In fact, we would have had a vaccine for Ebola for quite some time. The only reason we hadn't had it is because those same politicians you just spoke about who don't know about Ebola, they would not pass laws to create the vaccine because the mythical free market, the mythical market is the one who is to make these vaccines, and the mythical market saw no value in making these vaccines because they couldn't make a killing. Ultimately speaking, in this country, right now we have a corporate structure that controls the government and everything in between. And because of that, they simply manipulate issues to maximize profits. As an example, when Ebola has finally started to hit strong, now we can get that vaccine made because there's a market. So I mean, we have to our major problem in America is the corrosive nature of money in politics and corporate personhood. MoveToAmend.org is working on that particular problem. The reason why those two issues are so strong is specifically for what you've said, and that is we cannot hold discussions because every discussion that we hold is in the context of what will maximize profits for somebody. And to do that, you have to keep a population relatively, I hate to say this, but not very smart. And that's what we're good at.
Exactly, and that's the sad story. So I believe we have to stop being ideologically blind. Like you said, the gentleman you spoke with, I think you articulated that very properly. We have to agree to disagree, okay? But also we have to come to that point and agree to agree.
Absolutely.
Okay? The fact that you're a liberal and I'm a conservative, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have no common point. It can happen, and it has happened, and,
Yeah, and that's why I told Aaron, I want Aaron to keep listening to the show. I want Aaron to keep calling in. The reason why is I don't want to be talking to the choir. I have a whole bunch of liberals that I can talk to every day. I want to talk to other people because I want to come to consensus with other people, and not necessarily that they're going to agree with me, but I want to talk to folks because that's how we're going to get change made. Go ahead. I thank you. Do you have something else to say, Josh, before I go to Gary?
No, that's it. I hope to be listening in some more. It's a great show, and I just went to your Facebook page. I've liked you already, so I think this is very good.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Keep up the good one.
Great. You have a wonderful day now. I think Gary is up next. Gary, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Talk to me, Gary.
Well, I believe we have a misunderstanding of terminology, and I just wanted to say about your recent caller that there's a big difference between war and terrorism.
Right.
Now, in war, armies fight armies, and air forces fight air forces. And in terrorism, innocent people minding their own business, going to the market to buy some oranges, are blown to little bits. And they could care less either way about who's fighting who, and they're just minding their own business and living their lives. And when you kill civilians, innocent civilians, who have probably never even heard of you, then that is what is known as terrorism.
Let me stop you right there for a second, Gary. What did we do in Germany when we fired bombs? Rotterdam, I think. What did we do in Japan when we dropped the nuclear bomb? What did we do in Panama when we went in for Manuel Antonio Noriega and simply flattened those areas where people were just shopping and living their lives? I mean, I know exactly what you're trying to say, Gary, but what I'm saying is when you're looking at it from our point of view
wait.
Go ahead. Yeah.
When you're at war, okay, you blow up cities and you blow up buildings and you kill innocent people. I think they call it collateral damage.
Wow.
And that's really horrible.
Yes.
That a civilian minding their own business, trying to feed their cat, gets blown to bits by somebody's bomb. Okay, but that's country versus country and nation versus nation. But when you go out to a market or you go out to a movie theater or you go out to a soccer game and you blow off a suicide bomb and kill 500 100 innocent people that have nothing to do with your fight or your enemy's fight, that could care less because they just want to go home and feed their cat. Now that's terrorism. When you kill people that you don't even know.
Are you there, Gary?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
Well, I'm through. That's all I wanted to
say. Okay, no, I
was talking about. I think he's confusing the old saying that one man's freedom fighter is another man's rebel.
Is there any truth to that statement, sir?
To what statement?
That you just mentioned, that one man's freedom fighter is the other man's terrorist?
No, I didn't say terrorist. That's the point. One man's freedom fighter is another man's rebel.
Oh, okay.
I support the Palestinian cause. I think that the State of Israel has violated all the rules of the Geneva Convention, okay? And they have taken over property that they don't even own and claimed it for themselves. Are you still there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're here.
Okay, so I'm not opposed to his political point of view. What I'm saying is what terrorism is the destruction of innocent people that could care less about what you believe.
Okay, let me just say something. I understand what you're saying there, and I think first of all, when it comes to terrorism, it's an interesting thing. I always ask one question: what normal person blows themselves up? I'm legitimately asking the question: what normal person blows themselves up for some particular reason?
Well, you're asking the wrong person.
Okay.
Because I can't understand how anyone would blow themselves up for anything. I mean, it makes no sense. It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. We just lost a caller. Who was that on the line that we lost?
Kyle.
Kyle, call back. I'll take you next.
I'll let you go. Thanks.
Yeah. Call back, Kyle, because I want to hear what you have to say. Terry, what do you think of what Gary just said?
Well, everything you need to know that is wrong with this country, and I'm not criticizing Gary, but it's perspective. His initial comment was that to bomb people that you don't even know is terrorism. And it's when nations fight nations and armies fight armies. Well, one of those cities you left out was Dresden.
Right. Dresden is actually Dresden was the one that I wanted to call, but I said Rotterdam, didn't I? It was Dresden.
We carpet bombed Dresden.
Right.
because we specifically wanted to terrorize the civilian population.
Right. Terry, let me get to Kyle, and I'm going to come back to you because I just want to... Kyle, come on in, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Just
I'm
fine, my
a fairly
friend.
new listener. I've only been listening the past couple of weeks since they changed my shift. I work night shift. I get to listen to you on the way home.
Yeah. Talk to me, Kyle.
I guess a couple of things. The last guy, I didn't really agree with his definition of terrorism and war. War is terrorism. Terrorism is war. Collateral damage is terrorism. It's all the same thing. Terrorists fight wars. They're fighting a different type of war. It all ends up being the same thing. And it's if people die. That's war. That's a part of war. And then, where is it going? I'm driving. I'm almost home. Another thing, I don't like you had a couple callers and saying about the two-party system and whatnot, and I think that's the main problem we have today. You got too many people, oh, I'm a right-wing Republican, oh, I'm a left-wing liberal, or whatever. And we're constantly divided on those lines.
Right.
You can never be a country of Americans anymore. You got to be a Republican or a Democrat or independent or whatever. Why can't I just be an American? Because I have views of both sides, but yet then I'm a socialist or communist or whatever.
That's actually one thing that I think should be resisted. This sort of trend of this sort of tribalistic, horse race type politics. This sort of red team versus blue team type stuff, where and I think people should be more independently minded. And able to challenge not only engage in this usual combat that they do, rhetorical combat that they engage with people that they mostly don't agree with, but also challenge the people that they do agree with on occasion. If they do not feel that what they said is something that they can agree with.
Yeah, I agree with that, Kyle. What I wanted to say though is I always a lot of times I preface myself as being a left-wing liberal just as a matter of folks identifying, but then I immediately try to bring folks into the fold as far as saying, oh, you have your dog barking. Okay.
Hold on just 1 second.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I mean, but I only do that sort of a descriptive thing, but my goal has always been, like you heard me speaking, I don't know if you heard me speaking to Aaron, otherwise, trying to say, we should all be talking together and trying to figure out what we have in common and how we can actually get stuff done, if you know what I mean, get stuff done. But anyway, continue with what you wanted to say, Cal.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. You can never get anything done because we're constantly divided, and it's nothing but arguments from the left and the right. I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're wrong. You're getting a constant gridlock of nothing getting done. So
right. Well, let me tell you, one of the things that again we try to do, or one of the things that the folks that I work with we're trying to do, is we're trying to get around that. We're trying to first make it again acceptable. I don't know. In the past, people could talk together. People could have conversation. Make that okay again. Right now, I can tell you there's a certain place that I live, Terry, you know where that is. When certain people are sitting down in a coffee shop with me and if a friend comes in, you can immediately see them creep off to the side. It's like, okay, Verdo, you know, that kind of a thing?
Yeah.
That happens because, like in my town, everybody know, that I'm that good old lefty, and some people, if some of their friends and they're in there sitting down talking to me, you can see them creep off. It's obvious to me.
A lot of people creep off of my conversations too, and it's been a little too extreme because I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. There's no in between. You either go all the way or don't do it at all.
Anyhow, anyway, Kyle, anything else you want to say, my friend?
No, that's pretty much it.
Well, look, thank you for calling. Keep listening and keep calling if you have something to say, buddy. Just come on, call on in. Folks,
I will. As long as I stay on this shift, I'll probably give you a call on the way home.
Okay, you have a good shift, my friend. Anyhow, this is KPFT FM 90.1 FM. And Jacob, help me with those other numbers. We need to paste that up here.
89.5 in Galveston, 90.3 in Goodrich, Livingston, and 91.9 in Huntsville.
Yeah, I mean, I thought when we did this, when I decided on the topic that I was going to talk about, I kind of knew some of the calls that were actually going to come in. But Terry, what else do you have to tell me before we kind of have to shut this baby down?
Well, two things right quick. Number one, the biggest problem in this country, right, left, or whatever, continues to be the limited participation. About 150 115 million people voted in the last presidential election, and about 63 million, I believe, voted for Romney, who could be considered uber conservative. What you have is a very small tail wagging a very big dog.
Right.
You need to understand that. And then lastly, the perception that was voiced by the other caller that we don't get anything done is patently false. You need to take a very hard look to all the listeners on this show, because there are things happening. There are a lot of things that are happening. And if you don't pay attention to the laws that are being passed, you will wake up one day and find you've been outlawed.
You know something? You just, and I hope you heard what he just said, Cal. That what Terry just said is very important. A lot is happening just behind the scene. I have to go to David real quickly. David, we don't have much time, but let me hear what you want to say.
Yeah, man, I was just sitting here thinking about all the things I wanted to say tonight, and all the, I could go on for minutes and minutes and minutes, but I just wanted to say, just thanks for the discourse and, just getting to listen to it tonight. And this is more of what we need, man. This is more of what we need. And so thank you for the forum.
Look, sir, I appreciate that very much. Please continue to listen. Please let your friends know that at this time, at 9 o'clock every Monday, this is what we do, and this show is all about what you want to hear, what we need to get to you. So
I don't always agree with you, but I like to hear what you say.
I appreciate that, sir. You have a wonderful day, and keep listening and keep calling, okay? And
I will.
I tell you,
brother.
make a list the next time and say, Egberto, bam, 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 and we'll take care.
Oh, okay. I will have something to say to you.
Okay, man. You take care. Thank you. Okay, folks, we're coming down to the last minute and a half of the show. So what I normally ask folks to do is give a closing statement. And since right now Terry's the only one on the line, I'll say, Terry, give me a quicker.
Pay attention to what's going on around you. Stay true. Vote.
Thank you very much. Folks, let me tell you something. This subject tonight was pretty deep. We didn't get as deep as we could because of some time constraints, but please do remember, this is some serious stuff, and we are going to be doing this throughout the year. So with that, I'd like to tell you, come back to Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Go to the webpage at politicsdoneright.com, or go to egbertowillies.com, or go to the Facebook page, Politics Done Right. And with that, you have a wonderful good night. Thank you very much, Jacob, for great work that you constantly do here for us.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.